What's up, everybody, and welcome to what I believe is episode 9, 10,
I
something
think
like
it's
that,
10.
of the Safe Lane Podcast. My name is Travis Elliott, otherwise known as Rafi Doda. With me, as always, is my friend and coworker, Jack Ballenger. Jack, tell the people what we're going to be talking about today.
Today we're going to go a couple weeks into the past and talk a little bit about ESL 1 Katowice, the most recent completed major. We're, of course, in the middle of one right now, taking a day break between the group stage and the finals, but I digress. So we're going to be talking about ESL 1 Katowice. There have been a couple roster shifts, kind of, just orgs dropping teams, really.
Small
So we're
movements.
going to fill you in on that. And then we're going to move into some bracket predictions for the ongoing PGL Bucharest Major. The draws for the playoff brackets were done earlier today by none other than Sir Action Slacks himself, which I think is pretty hilarious that they're letting him do that. Just adds a lot to the stream, in my opinion. But yeah, that's pretty much all we've got for today. Bit of a short show, but let's go ahead and get through it. So ESL 1 Katowice completed recently, well, sort of recently.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, we saw Virtus Pro taking home the grand prize in a pretty fast best of 5 against Vichy Gaming. Vichy took a game, but there was only one game in this series longer than 30 minutes, and it was pretty much just Virtus Pro all the way.
Yeah,
I
VP
think
doesn't. They don't play with their food.
no, not at all. Like you see them lose a couple games in the group stage here or there, and you think, VP looking a little shaky, and then they make it to the playoffs and just turn it on, man.
Oh, they definitely get stronger as time goes on. Like
Yeah,
more so than any other team. Like because Navi used to be famous for that, and EG used to be
old
famous for
EG,
that. As
yeah.
like working through the lower bracket and like just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Fiji does it better than
VP doesn't even have to go to the lower bracket.
yeah. VP does it better than anybody else. Like
Yeah,
they take a little bit of a they pick up a little bit of a rough start and then they just start steamrolling.
yeah.
Um,
I think the big takeaway from this for me was that I feel bad for Lil. He got the shortest straw in that exchange by far. Like I'm talking about
oh
all the
yeah.
players and orgs involved. Like, man, to go from a major winning team to Navi like this is pretty rough.
Yeah, that
And
definitely sucks for him. Like, I mean, the format for this was a little bit wonky, but I mean, we were talking a little bit before the show, as you said, like, it should not matter to a good team. And then, you
yeah,
get 1-0'd by Fnatic, and then you fall to staring down newbie and get 2-0'd. Like, that's a rough setup, even if you are a good team.
hmm
But, I mean, for Navi, it was basically just a death sentence.
yeah, exactly. I think Roger seems to be a pretty good fit for Virtus Pro as well. He's
Oh,
been
yeah.
playing well with him at Bucharest. His hero pool so far has been pretty small. I feel like I've seen him play mostly like Naga and Chen and the occasional disruptor game. But that seems to be fine because like they're getting these heroes without a problem. And I can't remember seeing any game of his where it looked like, wow, Roger's just on this weird hero and he looks totally uncomfortable and, just couldn't get anything going. But haven't seen anything like that so far. So it seems like it's just smooth sailing for Virtus Pro.
For me, the biggest match of this tournament was Fnatic coming out of Group B over Team Secret. That was an
Yeah, that
amazing
was.
series. If anybody watching still has not seen it or seen the highlights of that series, I would highly recommend you go watch it. Definitely an instant classic. Fnatic starting to click, do you think? Or
um,
still a little bit inconsistent, unpredictable?
the optimist in me says yeah, but I don't know. The like pragmatist in me says this is one result and not to take too much from it, especially because like they qualified through after they beat Secret, and then they got bitch slapped by Virtus Pro in the next round. Just like, completely shot down.
My
So
thing, my thing here is that with Fnatic, it's like, okay, yeah, they're good, but it's still an Eternal Envy team. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
to me, and I don't know what it is about Jackie, I don't know, but just from years of watching Dota, I always know that even if they are favored in a matchup, even if they're stronger, you know, I have no idea what to expect going in. They pull off
No.
some of the
Yeah.
most amazing upsets in Dota history, but then they also have, even in Overwatch League, Jack Etienne, the owner of C9, uh, Cloud9 rather, is, they own the London Spitfire in Overwatch League, and it's a running joke of like choking is pulling a C9, and like even they are
Yeah.
like they lean into it, like they know.
I'm pretty sure that reputation was spawned largely in thanks to the C9 Eternal Envy Dota era as well, when they were, constantly getting second place and choking in grand finals. That's I don't know. I don't remember Cloud9 having like a super choky League of Legends team before that. So I guess you can thank Eternal Envy for that meme. Um, yeah, I think I've said this before on the show. I'm certain of it, but you know, never bet on any match that has Eternal Envy in it. Like, don't bet for him to win. Don't bet against him, because either way, you're kind of just throwing your money away.
You may as well just bet on both sides at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Or just don't play.
Uh, Another impressive team, I've got more questions about. So, Evil Geniuses. They did drop in a lower bracket after losing to LGD Gaming, but in classic EG style, boom, 2-0 Infamous, 2-0 Team Kinguin, who looked good, 2-0 Newbie to come out
Mm-hmm.
in third place of Group B and keep Newbie out of the playoffs. So, Evil Geniuses, do you think they're starting to click? Do you think that this roster might actually work?
Yes, I do. I started thinking this after Katowice, and especially now that they've done pretty well in their group at Bucharest, I definitely think that this roster is kind of starting to find its feet. There's for sure like a lot of work that still needs to be done. We talk a lot about inconsistent teams, and right now EG is like probably on my top 5 for most inconsistent teams right now. Um, as a spectator of their games, it feels like so much is hinging on Sumail in that weird offlane role now.
Sure.
When he has even a decent game, EG seems to pull really far ahead, and Arteezy gets a lot of space. Fear gets to run around the map and fight with Sumail, and everything looks great. But I feel like if they fall behind, they they seem to lose all hope.
I mean,
And
they tended to have that kind of a pattern when they still played with Universe. It really seems like Evil Geniuses kind of pours their resources into a particular player or lane, and they kind of rely on that person to either pick up the slack or push the lead. And you could see a pattern evolve in Evil Geniuses games where if Universe didn't have a great game, Evil Geniuses definitely did not have a good time. There were sometimes they were able to overcome maybe a lost lane from Universe, but that was usually because Sumail was winning his lane. And so I think putting a dynamic player like Sumail in a lane that can kind of, I think it's kind of really a key to every meta in Dota, where if you can consistently
absolutely,
win your off lane, like you're a good team and you are going to have a lead at some point in the game, and
yeah.
you
I
will
mean,
have an opportunity to win.
just look at. I think the two best examples of this are probably just Liquid and Virtus Pro. Like Mind Control and Nine Pasha are both players that freaking they will carry games by themselves if you let them. Like I watched My Control kind of do that on his Enchantress this morning. Just I mean, these guys are sick players. You give them an inch, they take a mile. Um, and it feels like I don't know. It just feels like Sumail is like constantly a step behind these kind of players. Like, and I don't know if it's just him still being a relative newcomer to the lane, or if it's just something about the overall Evil Genius's chemistry. But I feel like if they can work their way over this hump and not even make it to where he's like a super consistent offlaner, but maybe just make it to where he doesn't, when he loses his lane, it doesn't go so drastically bad. Like if they could just stem the bleeding a little bit, I think this team would be super strong. Because I think Misery as well has been a much better fit than you gave him credit for. And we don't get a lot of glimpses into the inner workings of this team, but if we let their results speak for it, it seems like it's been a pretty good match. I think his hero pool especially suits them really well.
I think that the reason that this works is so Misery's not nearly as demanding as Peter.
Yeah,
And I think that that sits a lot better with Sumail. I
that's,
think
and
that it be. I think he.
RTZ.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they feel like they have the freedom to do what they want, to be their own
Mm-hmm.
player, so to speak. Whereas with Peter, he definitely gives off a "it's my way or the highway" type
Go here,
vibe.
do this.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's
I think
not
it's gonna be.
really it's not really that Peter is and I think it's a good characteristic, honestly, to have that very general type approach. But if you really kind of dig down into it, it's almost Peter is playing five heroes. They're just people doing hit like following his orders.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Optic they lost a lot of their advantage in my mind with the new coaching rule, where the coaches can now help you with the draft because before that was the advantage you got when you were on a PPD team is like you had an inherent drafting advantage.
Right.
And I think that's pretty much gone now. Now that you have coaches weighing on the draft, I think that's not nearly as much of an advantage for
I
Optic
like
as it might have been in the past.
I liked that coaching change, but you're right.
Oh, me too. I like it a lot.
It's diminished Peter's advantage.
Like, yeah, okay, it sucks for Peter, but it's great for every other team, and it makes watching every other team, so
Right.
much more exciting
Well,
because now you have.
it makes it so that you don't have to have a player that comes along once in a blue moon. Like you don't have to have
Hey,
a
you know what?
Sumail who carries or a PPD who outmaneuvers your opponent.
While we're on this subject, I think one thing that might be helping out Evil Geniuses a lot is having Bulba as a coach and a drafter for that team. He's maybe not been the strongest player in the past, but he's a guy with a mind for Dota. And having someone in a position like that is a tremendous boon to your team. And I
I
think that's something that kind of gets glossed over a lot. The
I
coach, they just get
I think
forgotten.
the coach is definitely an underappreciated and underutilized position. I
Mm-hmm.
know that, like for instance, Kipsel works as an analyst for Vega Squadron, and as I've been an analyst before, I have great respect for that position. I do not think that it brings as much of an impact as coach.
Well,
Um,
I saw her behind the team when they were drafting at Bucharest, so I think she weighs in a little bit, but at that point, you're just kind of comparing coaches, like who's got the better coach.
Sure. Well, I mean,
Like Liquid.
I think it helps because Sam has such a wealth of experience. He's part of the
Yeah,
reason that they were able to win the International 2015. I will sing Sam's praises all day long, as will, I think, pretty much anybody else in the scene that you meet.
he's a top-notch theory crafter. Like the guy just never stops thinking about Dota, and that's
I
the perfect kind of person to have as your
he's
coach.
definitely, if there was somebody that I was like, all right, this person is the number one coach out there, it's Sam.
Yeah,
I think 1437 is probably also another great person to have at that helm, or Owie 2000. I think all three of those guys.
I
Um,
think Heen has been an incredible coach for Liquid as well.
um,
Um, all right, let's move on. I think we've talked enough about ESL at this point. Um,
let's drop into some of the news. Just get that out of the way.
yeah, so
Um,
we've got some new crappy North American rosters. We got VGJ Storm. They've come back from the dead with their sick new roster. It's Yuar, Tomato, Sneaking, MSS, and SVG. And I mean, I feel like I've said this so many times, but yay, another North American team to lose to Optic Complexity and EG in qualifiers.
I mean, it's this is it's so hard to watch North American Dota. Having worked in North American Dota, I can tell you, they all of these players, they are great players. These are the types of players that can end up on teams like Team Secret, and everybody in the world will suddenly be like, "Holy shit! I had no idea how good this player was."
And they clearly want to compete because these guys have been going at it for years, even if they haven't been able to succeed. Like I've seen Snaking and MSS around Dota 2 forever, you know?
Um,
So it's a damn shame because this team is going to go nowhere.
it's unfortunate just because I don't understand why a lot of these North American teams feel like it's like, oh, it has to be all of us North Americans. I mean, like, I understand time and ping and things like that,
And
but
also, we're only going to give it a month and a half. If it doesn't work out, we're
oh
going to
my
disband.
god, that is one of. I was actually just thinking about this before this show started about my time with Leviathan and things like that, and how, looking at this Evil Geniuses roster, we were just talking about that, how longevity has given them the legs that they need to finally be, if they can play consistently like they have in the last month or
Mm-hmm.
so, they're a masterclass team. They're right back to where they were before they swapped it all around. And if teams would give it just a little bit more time, if they weren't, and it feels like a very American mindset to be just dead set on like success. We need, sponsorships and money all really soon because we know we're good players, but you know, you have to prove it to other people. And I think that not setting those lofty goals for yourself and giving yourselves time to gel as a team is one of the most important things that you can do. Which was why I
Yeah.
was really upset when VGJ Storm broke up after the addition of BSJ and Monkeys Forever, because I felt like that given a little bit more time, that team's really had the legs to go places,
Plus,
despite some of the departures.
it just looks really bad if you click on a player's team history and it's like you see like 35 different teams over the past 2 years, and you're like, what the hell is this guy doing? I mean, it's kind of a non sequitur, but when I used to play World of Warcraft a lot and I was a guild, I would recruit for my guild. One of the things we look for is like, does this guy bounce around a lot? Because, if they spend 2 weeks in a guild and then they leave, they're probably just not a very reliable person. And it seems like that's what a lot of these North American teams are. Like they want to group up, they want to play in a stack, and they want to try and qualify for something.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, well, screw it. On to the next one.
It really is a mindset that a lot of the players have, in my experience, and
Very
I really don't,
self-centered.
like it. I think that they're not willing to give things a proper shot. And I will, I'll say about like with Leviathan, like when we brought in Garter, the only reason that Garter had uh, some type of urgency was because he was living in America away from his family, and it was costing him money to be here. And so we
Mm-hmm.
needed to find success so that he could start reimbursing himself for, the money that he had spent trying to make this happen. And I think that if more NA players were willing to put some differences aside and stop trying to think of themselves as already established, and oh well, we're gonna get
Yeah.
rid of this player because we think he's the problem, and things like that, and
Well, I
just
won
try
this
and
one tournament a year ago.
right, and like start trying to work together, I think that we'd have a much healthier scene.
Yeah, it just makes it really tough to be excited about North American Dota right now. Like, I want to get into this scene and like
Boy, does
watch
it.
low tier games again, like I used to, but I just don't care because I know that these teams are just going to lose to the trifecta,
Right.
e.g., complexity and optic.
Uh,
Um, Next
So
up, the
Iceberg.
Iceberg. Yeah, they have left the Iceberg Esports organization over. I'm not sure. Was it payment issues for the Dota 2 squad
Yeah.
as well? Was
So
that confirmed? Okay,
yeah, it was
the same
payment
thing
for
happened to the
both,
Counter Strike team.
which
So this
is
seems to be an issue with
appalling,
Iceberg,
really.
the organization.
They owe
Totally.
them. At least they owe the CS:GO players. I don't know what they owe the Dota players, but I know that Iceberg Esports owes the CS:GO players $10,000 in salary payments alone. I
Yeah.
don't know if they won anything, but I mean, my God, like it is 2018. I thought we were past this. Apparently not. Um,
Someone's always gonna try though,
I
right?
worked
Like,
with Leviathan, I worked really hard to make sure that that wasn't going to happen. Uh, when we were talking with orgs and things like that, and it's a challenging process because you have to immediately challenge somebody's integrity of are you just here because you're trying to fuck us
yeah.
and because I mean, one of my players was on the team Imagine that got picked up by Martin Shkreli, and if you are following, the news that's going on around him, you know it's not great.
Yeah, he's not
Um,
having a good time.
so it's really disappointing to see this happen with this team. Um, I did not read into it before this. Um,
I mean, I
so
saw the announcement on the Dota 2 subreddit, and I was like, oh, I remember reading this about their CSGO team a couple days ago. I guess I'm not surprised.
Well, I know that Iceberg made a response, um, and I think that Iceberg has said that they will make those payments. Um, but I
Soon
mean,
trademark.
I don't even know. I mean, that's just such a shitty thing to do because it's kind of like, these players could be counting on that money, and then it's like, okay, well, you know, we don't have it, and they're like, dude, I was counting on that money to be able to pay rent this month, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. It's like
It
you
also looks
can't.
really bad to potential investors.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate that this has to happen to Valve esports, and not to knock on Valve for the millionth time, but if we had a more established scene with a more involved Valve Corporation, with similar to how the Overwatch League looks, if they took a more hands-on approach, people who do these types of things would be deterred, and it would be less simple for people like this to take advantage of these players.
Yeah, it feels like Valve is finally, or the Valve hands-off policy is finally catching up with them. But that's a whole nother can of worms. Let's not get into that because we'll be here all fucking night.
Oh yeah. All right. So
Let's talk about Penta dropping their team real quick.
and then
This
Black.
didn't really come as a surprise to me. I don't know if you know much about Penta. They're like a tier 2 feeder team in Counter Strike, like a minor league baseball team,
Right.
kind of.
They're a farm team.
Yeah, farm team, exactly. So I guess it's not really surprising that they dropped this roster, especially since Weeha has been in Bucharest wearing a Pain jersey for the past week. Um, they didn't. I don't think they dropped him like right because of that, because they only dropped him 3 days ago.
It's
But
probably just not financially viable anymore. I mean, they
yeah,
picked up
exactly.
before without Weeha, they picked up
It's a
five
team of pub
unknown
stars.
players. Like
I know Armin and I recognize Boogie from Sing Sing stream.
I whenever they picked them up, which was a while ago, because I remember writing the note. They picked them up a while ago. They really haven't done anything.
Well,
They've
it's
lost
a
bunch of
German org. They picked
qualifiers.
up a German team. That's what they do.
I mean, it wasn't a good look, and eventually, it
Yeah.
wasn't financially viable for that organization.
Something's got to give in the end.
Right.
I'm sure we will find a home.
I'm sure he will. I think the players are staying together. At least that's what I believe Liquipedia reported, that they're
The Boogie, D&Z, RMN core have been playing together for a while, I think.
Yeah. But I think Liquipedia said that they were staying together. That they're gonna be
going in.
going in again or whatever.
Okay.
So
Well,
yeah,
I mean, it's a decent roster. Like they're not going to compete with Secret or Liquid, but you know,
sure.
it's a team that you don't want to take for granted if you're playing them in a qualifier.
So one last little piece of news. So obviously, again, kind of old black left Clutch Gaming, Clutch Gamers. Um, it he wrote a little blog piece on it. He said that he's played with these players before. He thought maybe they could play together again. They're all good friends, but he expresses concerns to the management that there were personality conflicts when playing with these guys, despite them being friends. And he said that he'd give it a little bit of a time and see if it was going to work out again. And they kind of got into it. He noticed that some of the problems that these players used to have playing together were cropping up again, and he just decided to go ahead and get out. He was like, I'm not interested in wasting my time. I'm not interested in wasting the org's time or any of these other players' time. Like, if this is not going to work, and I can see that from the beginning, there's not much of a reason to stay and, waste all of that time just to be frustrated.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal with Black is at this point. I think he's become one of those players that I was talking about with so many different teams on his played with list. Like, he played with Faceless for a year, but other than that, he's just been bouncing around nonstop.
Yeah.
Uh, I really liked him as like a desk personality at events. I think that's a role he's pretty well suited for. But he's a perfectly fine player, but his teams just don't seem to go very far.
Yeah. All right. So we'll kind of wrap this
Bucharest.
up with some discussions about Bucharest and the predictions going forward, since we do have the draw for playoffs.
So the Swiss stage is wrapped up earlier today. I guess I'll go ahead and read the teams that were eliminated because we'll going into the playoffs in just a little bit. So Navi, Complexity, OG, Vici Gaming, Pain Gaming, Mineski, LGD Forever Young, and Vega Squadron will all be going home, finishing outside of the DPC points placing. So it's going to be pretty disappointing for all those teams. I think especially probably Mineski, Vici Gaming, OG. These are teams that probably expected to qualify.
Sure. I see a lot of people, and Jack and I were talking about this before the show started. I've seen a lot of people, analysts, especially personalities, bitching about the format for this tournament. And to anybody who has a problem with this Swiss stage, claiming that oh well, it's not really fair because TNC is in at 3-2 after beating Mineski, Optic, and Navi. Meanwhile, LGD Forever Young is out because they had to play Liquid, Virtus Pro, and Vici Gaming, and it's tough. And this is easily the most exciting tournament that has happened all year. Liquid has won everything under the sun since the International. With very few exceptions. And even for people like me who do this for a living, it's gotten boring. I don't want to watch another tournament where Liquid wins 3-1. I don't. And so for this particular stage of the tournament, I've immensely enjoyed watching all of this. Whoop, we've lost Jack. All right, so it is my understanding that Jack has lost power here. So you guys will just get to enjoy two of my face until Jack returns. For all of you video watchers, for all of you audio listeners, you are already listening to the lovely sound of my voice. Just gonna tell Jack that he can jump back in whenever. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the group stage for Bucharest. And Jack already read off for you the people that are going home. And so we'll talk a little bit about those who are
Hello?
staying. All right, there he is. He's back.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, we're back.
Perfect. Um, so
So
just
we were
going
saying,
over the people that are still in the playoffs, I finished my little rant about how people should stop whining about how this has been the most entertaining tournament of the season thus far.
okay, good. We've made that point. Yes,
So
this is a good format, people.
yes,
This is good. You should be happy.
and I mean we've said it before, we'll say it again. Uh, Good teams can rise above a crappy format.
Yes.
And you know
Yes.
we're not at a place in this esport, and I don't think that we ever will be, where you can conceivably say that, oh well, this team will always win a best of one. And I think
Yeah, that's so dumb.
that's what makes part of this game exciting. You know, and baseball is not the sexiest sport, and it's not the sexiest sport to be compared to when comparing esports with traditional sports.
Hey man, stats are sexy. Go baseball.
Dota is a lot like baseball in that you need the 3-game series to decide which team is better. Like, a best of one tells you nothing because there is such depth and width to strategy in this
Yeah.
game, in every single game, that it is very difficult to create some type of rankings hierarchy for these teams.
I mean, let's just say this. You probably won't see Huskar and Broodmother banned in every game in a best of three, but you can be damn sure that those heroes are probably going to be banned in a best
In
of
a
one.
best of one.
Yeah, like if you don't last ban Broodmother, you're just asking to get cheesed and lose. Or like if you see a Dazzle and you don't ban Huskar, like that's just Dota 101. If you lose to that, that's on you.
Absolutely. All right, so the playoff spots. The draw is VGJ Thunder will face off against TNC Pro Team. Newbie will be facing off against Team Secret. Evil Geniuses will be facing off against Team Liquid. And Virtus Pro will be facing off against Optic Gaming for like what feels like the 7th time in 2 weeks.
The rematch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think things are gonna go back to normal now that we're back to the best of three playoff bracket. I think Vici Thunder will edge out TNC Pro Team simply based on experience alone. I think Newbie Secret is probably of these the only really tough one for me to call. They've been looking kind of shaky lately, like not as strong as they were maybe like at the end of last year, beginning of 2018.
Yeah.
But they're still a really strong team, and definitely not a free win for Secret by any means.
I mean, it's really hard. They played similar competition in the Swiss stage.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think that at this juncture, especially after that kind of sloppy Fnatic loss back in Katowice, I think that Newbie just is consistently the more disciplined team. Then again, I personally think that Puppy is a better captain than Faith.
I would agree with that.
I agree with you that I really could see either team winning this, but I think I would have to go with Secret.
I think it's going to come down to me a lot for the mid lane matchup because both of these teams play really heavily around mid one and SCCC respectively. Sure. So I think whoever wins mid is probably going to come out on top of this series. EG versus Liquid. I think this will be a pretty entertaining series. For those of you who missed it, EG did manage to beat Liquid in their best of one in the Swish stage. So Liquid's going to be looking for a little revenge, and I think that they will get it.
Yeah.
EG will probably take a game off them, I have to say. I think they're probably going to take a game. But I think that the best of three format is really going to show itself here with the 2-1 Liquid win.
I don't again, we really don't think there's going to be any surprises, and so moving off of that, I think that Virtus Pro is going to beat Optic Gaming in a similar fashion to how Liquid is going to beat Evil Geniuses. I think Optic Gaming could get one game, but I think that Virtus Pro definitely emerges on top. And I will say one thing that I'm happy about with this tournament is that we get Liquid versus VP in the semifinals, so that there will at least be some variation in the finals matchup.
Finally, a new team. I'm pretty excited for these playoffs. More so, I think, than I was for Katowice for sure. I think the first round is honestly really exciting. Like, I mean, it sucks to be the underdogs in these matchups, but I think it's going to make for a great finals. I have to say, though, I really feel bad for Optic, especially after they won that first game against VP in the Swish stage. But, you know, VP loses games like that all the time.
Yeah,
can't really read too much into it.
Again, best of one. It's really hard to gauge. I mean, you cannot look at this and be like, "Oh no, Liquid's falling apart and Optic Gaming is finally here." It's a best of one. It's really hard to
Liquid did lose to complexity, though.
That is true. It's too hard to gauge absolute skill off of a best of one. So with that being said, I think that we will end up with a Team Secret versus Team Liquid grand finals. I think Secret takes it.
I think Virtus Pro is going to make it to another grand final.
Really?
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be Secret Virtus Pro. But as to who wins that matchup, I don't know. That's kind of a toss-up for me. I think just sitting here right now, I think I'd have to give it to Virtus Pro. But this is that's the kind of matchup where I'd really want to hold my tongue until I saw the draft at least.
I mean, I know how you feel, but do you think Virtus Pro is going to go on another mid-season tear like they did last season before the International, where they're the ones winning everything?
I mean, I don't know if they're going to go on a tear. I think they're just going to keep playing this well until TI.
I mean,
like unless they hit like a huge mental slump, there's nothing stopping them.
I mean, I don't think they were.
Or if they just get totally blindsided by a patch, that can happen.
Sure. Well, I don't think they've been playing poorly by any means in the tournaments that they haven't won. But when I say tear, I mean winning tournaments.
Oh, you mean just like first place, first place.
Like last year.
I don't know. I mean,
because this one would start a streak.
Yeah, this would be 2 in a row. I don't know. Ask me again after the finals. Ask me again after the finals. Because, they did have a strong Swiss stage, but it's just kind of tough to call that off of, like, one result and a good group stage. But, I mean, if there's a team to do it, it's definitely Virtus Pro. They're pretty streaky, and, like, when they're on, they're unstoppable,
Yeah. All right. So
the Virtus Plow.
It is the top 4 teams that will end up with points, correct?
Yeah.
I believe that is the case. Yeah. So 3rd and 4th, they all get. So 5th through 8th still get
money, but no points.
So this team, let's see, they would have to get to, that's 1st and 2nd, and then, so I guess, is it the, what teams, how do you, okay, so I guess 3rd and 4th are just what, the losers of the semifinal games?
Yeah, because there's no difference between 3rd and 4th in this tournament. There's no 3rd place match.
So, I mean, wins over Liquid and Virtus Pro would be absolutely huge for Evil Geniuses and Optic. I don't
more so Evil Geniuses, I think.
Well, I think that right now, you have, because I don't have DPC points like right in front of me, but I think some of these teams are already in at this point.
I don't think anyone is mathematically guaranteed to qualify yet, but
No,
it would
nobody
be
is guaranteed to qualify. But of
for
the
Virtus Pro, Secret, and Liquid, it would be absurdly difficult for them to not qualify at this point. They would
right,
pretty much just have to AFK the rest of the season.
we are almost to the halfway point for point distribution thus far, and so if the international were to happen tomorrow, we would have Virtus Pro, Team Secret, Team Liquid, Vici Gaming, Newbie, Navi, Mineski, and Evil Geniuses uh, at TI.
Good thing it's
And,
not happening tomorrow.
right? So it's actually, it would just be a big win for Optic to get some of those points. And I believe you get like a small amount
Well, I
of
think the bigger one is
points.
going to be for EG because they're both getting points and denying points to
Sure.
the teams in front of them.
Well, you get points for qualifying too, right? For certain things, because like I think Immortals has 90 points.
They do have 90 points. Yeah, I'm not sure what they got those points from.
Didn't they win something at the beginning of the season?
Only MP, Febby, and Dubu have the points, so it came before they made that roster change.
Right. Had to be at the beginning of the season.
Boy, I just have no idea where they got these points from. Huh.
Well, I guess we will have to figure that out in our spare time. But that really is about all the time we have for today, and really all we had to talk about for today. Again, it is really hard to say the next time that we will be back. We do kind of try to work around the tournaments. So
Maybe after Bucharest.
we could come back after Bucharest, depending on what there is to talk about. We could break down some of those matches. More likely, we'll probably be coming back after the GEC Indonesia Minor, which will be occurring from the 15th to the 18th of March. We'll have Dream League starting up soon as well. So our Twitter handles are beneath our faces here on the stream. For those of you who are audio listeners, you can find me at Rafi Dota on Twitter. I will tweet when we have a show this week. You can follow Jack at Jack Ballenger. Both of those, I believe, are listed if you go to the Twitch channel. They are listed in the box, the more information section below. And also follow the eGamerNews Twitter and Twitch accounts, and you will always be notified when we go live. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.